notwithstanding the fact that the minority raised serious concerns about the criteria adopted by the NPP government to recruit personnel into the security services. It has persisted in taking additional steps in the last few days that we have seen. The NDC minority can authoritatively state that not long ago, the NPP government again has illegally and fraudulently given out 30 slots to all MPP parliamentary candidates across the country for the recruitment into the security services, namely Ghana Police Service, 2, the Immigration Service, 3, the Fire Service, 4, the Ghana Army, 5, the Ghana Navy, and 6, the Ghana Air Force. 30 slots to each parliamentary candidate of the NPP. The recruitment of the NPP foot soldiers into the security services, especially in this election year, is a calculated attempt to compromise the elections, given that the loyalty of the new recruit in the event that they are deployed will be to the ruling NPP and not to the state, as it is required for all security personnel. The murder of the 8 innocent Ghanaians during the 2020 presidential elections and parliamentary elections by the NPP party hooligans marks as security personnel is still fresh on our minds. These needless deaths as a result of the infiltration of our security services by such NPP thugs and hoodlums who were recruited into the security services. The blood of those whose lives were unlawfully and violently taken by the NPP thugs in security uniforms will continue to be in the hands of this government. Ladies and gentlemen, it is unacceptable that the government continues to put cheap partisan considerations ahead of the overall peace, security, and stability of our country in the run-up to the 2024 elections. We wish to remind His Excellency the President, President Akufo-Addo, and the Vice President, Alhaji Bawumia, that they will not have their way this time round, regardless of whatever maneuverings that they will roll out in the 2024 elections. We will resist these shenanigans with all our might and all our strength. Our members, our supporters, and sympathizers will not just defend themselves against unlawful attacks by the NPP thugs in uniform. We shall hold these NPP hoodlums personally responsible for their unlawful violation of the laws of Ghana and the legitimate rights of our people. Ladies and gentlemen, it is in the interest of the NPP foot soldiers to act lawfully or face the full consequences of their actions and the wrath of our supporters. Just as the minority protested vehemently against the politicization of our security services through illegal recruitment in 2019, we once again demand that recruitment into all the security services be halted forthwith to allow for advertisement to be made with the qualification criteria duly spelled out for all to see. By so doing, we would have created equal opportunity for all Ghanaians who would then be selected on the basis of merit and not cheap partisanship and nepotistic consideration. Ladies and gentlemen, we believe that this practice must stop.
So that was the minority leader, Dr. Kasialato Forson, yesterday, bringing to bear those. They are saying that this is an attempt to stack the security services, the police and the military. And the claim is that every member of parliament on the MPP side, the majority side, has been given 30 slots to provide people to fill. And likely these people will have a say as far as election 2024 is concerned. And he says the minority is going to vehemently resist that. But is this truth? Is it fact, fiction, or faction? A mixture of some truth and some untruth. Well, joining the conversation, we have Lanchene Toobu, Peter Lanchene Toobu. He is a former superintendent of police, superintendent of police, and of course, former executive secretary to an IGP. He joins the conversation. Mr. Lanchene Toobu, good morning. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Good morning, my brother. How are you?
I am well. I hope you are too.
I'm doing great.
All right, let's go straight for it. But even before we do, I want us to look at some of the historical antecedents that have brought us here. In the course of this Fourth Republic, we have known that parties in power somehow are able to get their people into the security services, especially the police, from what we've heard. In this administration, I have seen some things that I may not have seen before, because you would even have sponsors, people who walk the corridors of power, politicians standing by certain recruits and saying, yes, I brought these people in, and these people tend to be politically aligned. But it has been done throughout the Fourth Republic. What would you say about the antecedents that have brought us to this point, even before we address the substantive issue?
Thank you very much. Let me say good morning to our cherished listeners and viewers. It is quite interesting that I will have this opportunity today to speak deeply on matters of this nature regarding recruitment in the security sector. I've been in the security sector, very particularly within the police, for the past 25 years. And I think that what has happened, probably we've forgotten about the principle we call the broken windows principle. It started
the broken window what? The broken window what?
Can you hear me?
Yes, you said the broken window what?
The broken windows principle.
Okay.
The broken windows principle is a simple principle that says, it's just very practically. You have a very beautiful house, one glass is broken, so it doesn't matter. And a louver blade is broken, it doesn't matter. All of a sudden, after 10 years, you go to realize that the house looks like it is a house that people don't live in. The broken windows principle, from 1992 that we started this democracy, the Fourth Republic. What I've known in the past, that we all know it wasn't even acceptable. What is protocol? Protocol is when laid down procedures are afloat, adverts are made, people are recruited, somebody has gone to write an exam, and he says that about 5,000 people have taken the exam. And the police or the army or the immigration, they are going to just enlist only 1,000 people. How do I make it out of the 5,000? So the person goes to look for somebody who can assist so that the person can make it in the 5,000 and then gradually get selected in the 1,000. So what it means is that the person is actually qualified, gone through the screening and everything, they're taking the exam, waiting to be called for training, and is pushing that I should be called among the first 1,000. That was the protocol that we knew. Today, we've gotten to a point where exams do not even matter. People have not even applied to join any security services. You live in your groundnut farm, your cocoa farm, your uncle calls you, bring your certificate, and you write your name. Because they've given your uncle 3 slots to bring names. And gradually, we are inching towards disaster because you are not building a national force. You are building a partisan force that will gradually come to do partisan policing, and finally it will affect our democracy negatively. And I'm saying that let's speak about it. That is not right. There is a standard operating procedure regarding recruitment. And first of all, what we only do is we do an assessment to ask ourselves, how many police officers do we need for this country? Probably we need about 60,000 police officers. How many do we need now? What is the gap? Okay? Then you ask yourself, how many can we recruit this year? That question can only be answered by the ability to pay. You go to the Minister of Finance and the Finance Minister says, yeah, this year I think that I can only allow you to take 2,000 because we don't have enough funding. Then you come back and say, okay, Finance Minister, I'm giving you clearance for 2,000. Let's put an advert out there. We are going to recruit. These are the specifications. We need some doctors. We need some specialists or computer engineers. We need some men and women in uniform just to do the work at the grassroots. Fine. After that advert, people apply across the country. It doesn't matter where you come from. As long as you are a Ghanaian, you are qualified. And if you qualify, you apply and you are screened. Finally, you go through the process. If you are recruited, that is it. But where we don't have an advert, my brother and my sister sitting in the village with all their senior high school certificates, with all their degrees, have not seen any advert, only to realize that a brother or a sister they completed together, he's already on his way to training. And you ask the question, how did you get it? So it was my uncle who called me to submit my name. That is un-Ghanaian. It's uncharacteristic of who we are as Ghanaians. We don't do that. And a democracy where we are supposed to be preaching accountability and transparency, these things, these covert operations will damage the image of the institution. And I have said that even me, I'm a politician. If you call me today and say, Peter, bring 100 names for recruitment, and that is the practice you want to use, and that practice can damage the whole institution, I will tell you, I'll better not bring you a single name, open it up, let people go and apply and write. If I'm even going to get 10 people passing from my constituency, and that is different enough. I think
Peter, Peter, just a brief one before I bring in my other guest. And let me just acknowledge that I have joining the conversation Associate Professor of Criminology at the University of Cambridge, Justice Tankebe. Justice, good to have you join the conversation, sir.
Yeah, hello.
All right. Please just hold for me briefly. There's a follow-up question I have for Peter that I want to situate before I come to you. Now, are you then saying, yes, you're saying the right thing, that ordinarily people should go through the process, sit the exams, qualify per all the requirements, and that if it came to you, you wouldn't do that. But you do admit that your party has also been, complicit in this tide that we've had. You do admit that, right?
The statement I made earlier, which was very expressive, is that throughout the Fourth Republic, anytime you hear of protocol has to do with people who have taken part in the process. They believe that they've qualified and they've been screened and they've gone through, they've taken the exams. And I'm saying that if about 10,000 people took part in the recruitment process, and you are aware that the police have a financial clearance to take only 2,000, among the 10,000 who qualified and took part in the process, they are struggling to be part of the first 2,000. And that is where people struggle to go and see people, can you help me out? I've taken the exam, I know I can pass, but for fear, I want to be part of the first 2,000. If I even 2,001 on the list, I have failed. And gradually you have people doing that. It's unacceptable throughout the Fourth Republic. Yes, we know that. But where we have gotten to a point that there's no publicity, right? There is no open, transparent process anywhere. And it's all about somebody has gotten 30 slots in his pocket and now going around his village to look for people. That is the lowest we can ever go. And we should stop it now before it damages the whole institution that governs, that controls, in fact, anchors our democracy.
Hold for me, Peter Lanchene Toobu. Let me bring in Justice Tankebe. I mean, you've heard of this. You've heard of the petition by the minority and vocalized by the minority leader, Dr. Cassiel Forson. But what do you make of the context, the pre-context to the conversation? I didn't just want to go into it. I wanted to look at what has happened within the Fourth Republic and how we got here. What is your viewpoint?
Well, I think it's, as the other speaker mentioned, the issue of recruiting people or having protocol recruitment and so forth is to some extent not new. We've had that in the 80s, and I remember there was a commission of inquiry into recruitment and promotions in the service. And I think in the Fourth Republic, what we've seen is this really constant battle between the police and politicians, with politicians trying almost all the time somehow to have this control of the police in some of the key areas of their work. And the fact that we now have a situation where there is this kind of so-called backlog of recruitment, it's something not only astonishing, but I think completely new. And that, of course, makes it quite surprising for if one considers the role of the police. This is an institution that is supposed to represent, reflect, manifest the key principles that underpin the kind of governance that we have decided for ourselves. Issues of transparency, public scrutiny, equality, all these other principles. And what we are seeing now defeats those very principles. And not even in the colonial period did you have this, because in the colonial period, the British were very clear the kind of system that they were running and what kind of police force they needed to be able to do that. And that's why they will go to all kinds of places to have to recruit people who will be able to dominate the population, provide the kind of security for colonial administrators, and help exploit resources. Here we have a democracy, and we're running a police institution that is the opposite of those democratic principles. And we have now reached a situation where it appears there is this partisan political capture of the police. And in nowhere do we see this than in the kind of thing that we're talking about now.
How dangerous is it, this precedent we have set and which we are now living through? I mean, it cannot be said, possibly by any stretch of imagination, that within this administration, no such recruitments have been made. But it appears, if what the minority is saying is anything to go by, that the ante has been upped. The question then is, how dangerous is this, especially in an electoral year?
I mean, it's not the best of situations, of course, but not only because of elections and politics. We have to remember the work that the police spend their time doing most of the time, investigating all kinds of offenses, sexual assault, robberies, and so forth. And you need people who are committed to what could sometimes be an extremely stressful, boring job. And if you don't have people who are sufficiently committed to this kind of task, the danger is that we would have offenders remain in the community, they're not being held to account, and so forth. So the politics, yes, I understand that, but we have to look at what the police do every day. And we have really seen with some of the studies that have been done in Ghana that you have people who show up because they have entered the police force through all kinds of avenues. They're not committed to the job. Discipline within the service is problematic, and so forth. So we need to really take this extremely seriously and try to arrest the situation as quickly as we can.
Let me come to you, Peter Lanchene Toobu, on the dangers of same, especially in an electoral year. And maybe, just maybe, if I may play devil's advocate, your side is more concerned because you are in opposition, you stand to lose more. But generally, what does this mean for a police service which has been politicized? In other words, NDC police, NPP police. How dangerous is this from where you sit?
Look on the other side. It is extremely dangerous and very dangerously so to our democracy. We've traveled this journey for 32 years, and some of us believe that we should live to see this democracy grow to beyond 100. What is happening? Let me paint a very clear picture to you and tell you how dangerous it is. Imagine what happened in Techiman South in the 2020 elections, that men in uniform went to Techiman South, shot and killed. The case was at the CID headquarters, investigated up to date as we speak. Not a single soul has been arrested. And it is quite strange because in the security sector, when we talk about deployment is a structured way of doing things. And you can't go on operation and come back. And when they are looking for who was actually the one on that field, who shot, and they can't find that person, what it means is that if it is true that they can't find, then probably some people in uniform were not really soldiers, or they were not really uniform men, and they went and shot and killed. And even that happened, and we cannot arrest them. What it means is that the next time you find a person in uniform at a polling station, you will begin to doubt whether this is really the official person who is designated to be here, or these are some of the tasks. And when you doubt that they are really official, you are likely to attack them because of the history. Can you imagine that you've done this kind of recruitment as we are seeing them attempting to do now? And some of them have gotten into uniform and they were probably at Techiman South. And some of them probably are also in uniform and they are here at the headquarters. So the complicity, colleagues of us are shooting in Techiman South and colleagues of us are at the CID headquarters who are supposed to do the investigation, and they do what we call blue veiling, they cover up. Democracy is endangered completely. Let's not go this way. If we are interested in democracy, as much as we know that it's the best option for us as a country, if we go this way, what we are virtually saying is that probably we're interested in something else, which is more dangerous and chaotic.
Now, you've put out a statement as Member of Parliament for Wa West constituency as well, and you talk about, you know, the police pyramid, the role of the IGP and all of that. Let's situate the conversation, because now we're being told that, per the information your side has gathered, every MP on the majority side, and there are 138 of them, So let's do the math. 138 by 30, right? 138 by 30. You get 4,140. So you are alleging if they are able to fill these slots, we're going to see about 4,140 of these recruits in the police service, in the military, who would be party people, foot soldiers, if you like, or party people, or be partisan, who could be deployed. Break down for us what the implications of this would be, how you even arrived at this information, what information you intercepted, and maybe the role of the IGP in all of this, how maybe this could be deterred. What is your take on that? Mind you, the IGP, as you know, is an appointee of the president. He is part, his outfit is part of the executive. What's your take on that?
Thank you very much. The police is the coercive arm of government. And the police is a constitutional creation. It's a creation of law. And the IGP happens to be at the apex. Command and control stops with him. So whatever happens, it's a unitary command system. Whatever happens, it is the Inspector General of Police. And let me do a bit of a quick correction. We have 275 parliamentary candidates for the new Patriotic Party. It's not MPs. All their parliamentary candidates have been given 30 slots. 10 for the army, 10 for the police, 5 for immigration, 5 for fire service, totaling 30 each. And if you do this, my other colleague on the other side just made mention of it. That is what we call political capture of a state institution. So probably we'll move a bit further from politicization to total political capture. And if that happens, it's not about my party. It's about the fact that Ghana as a nation has gone democratic. And we're saying that transparency, accountability, equality, and the representation are some of the values I want to espouse. And very particularly, we should see these values in the Ghana Police Service. If you want the Ghana Police Service to be representative enough, and you don't want to do open publicity about recruitment, and you think that you should share it by a constituency, then decide that every constituency you are going to recruit 30 people. If every constituency is going to take 30 people, then myself and my MPP candidate in Wa West, probably he will have 15 and I also have 15. But when we bring the people, let's do the selection as politicians and take them to the police. Let the police take them through the system that you have to go through to be qualified to be recruited. And if a person qualifies, that is it. If you fail, that is it. But that is not even the right thing to do. Why would we have to descend to the point that we are allowing politicians to take over the administrative and operational duties of the Inspector General of Police? For instance, the Minister for Interior. The Minister for Interior is a policy person. He represents the President at the Minister of Interior at the policy level. And the Minister of Interior should not be seen micromanaging or attempting to intervene on matters of administration or operations when the IGP is there. If the IGP allows that, he will go down history as one of the worst IGPs ever in our democracy.
What are you saying? You're saying that if the IGP allows this to happen, this purported drive, he would turn out to be the worst in what? The history of the country or the Fourth Republic?
Let me repeat this. If the IGP allows political capture of the police institution, and each parliamentary candidate of the ruling government succeeds in bringing 30 people, some for police, the army, immigration, and whatever, the IGP is going to go down history as the worst ever Inspector General of Police. That I can state without equivocation.
Let me ask you, though, does your side have anything to back it up, to prove that these machinations are indeed in the works? I mean, it's one thing making the claim. It's another thing being able to provide evidence. I do know that in these matters, they are done behind the scenes. It is difficult to follow the paper trail. Sometimes there are no communications, there are calls, and I know that. But I'm saying, do you have any evidence, hard evidence, to back these claims you're making? These are damning claims you're making. Do you have hardcore evidence to back it up?
Fortunately, I think that it is trite knowledge that everywhere in the system you will hear. What is even damning is the fact that you will hear that slots are on sale. Because if you give 30 slots to a parliamentary candidate who is struggling financially, and you decide I'm going to sell 10, 20,000 for each, that is 200,000 Ghana cedis. It can support my campaign. And he gives it to maybe a party chairman. Please give me 2 people. The party chairman goes to sell them. because the party chairman is struggling to even repair his car. So finally, you see that slots are on sale, and the selling of the slots are not really from the police, they are from the politicians. But it will go to affect negatively the image of the police. So these things, when we talk about hard facts and evidence, I told somebody yesterday, at the Interior and Defense Committee level, we speak it as it is without adding any color. But this is on air. As a security person, it's not everything that we say on air. And I'm sure that when the Minister of Interior and the IGP, the Chief of Defense, when they appear before the committee, I am sure, humbly enough, they'll appreciate what is happening. If they allow it to ever happen, what we are telling the Ghanaian people that we are fed up with our democracy and we are interested in dictatorship. And that
hold it. You're saying that if the security operatives or the security services and their heads allow this to happen, then what we are saying as Ghanaians is that we are tired of our democracy. And then what?
We are moving towards dictatorship. Where the politician dictates everything. Even when the Constitution says the Inspector General of Police, for instance, is in charge of the administration operation of the police service, the Minister of Interior, for instance, will go and say, look, I am bringing you a list of 200 people, go and train them now. And the IGP cannot say anything and goes to train them. We've gotten into the forest completely.
Let me bring in Mr. Takebe. So there's an interesting picture being painted here. I want you to help me with this, because in that statement by Peter Lanchene Toobu, he also mentions, the last point says, the largest cadet officers course since 1959 is the current one. I repeat, the largest cadet officers course since 1959 is the current one, of course, about the police service. Course 53 with over 400 officers. This is the number that you are allegedly still thinking of adding on to. It looks bizarre to the national security family of our nation. I advise you to revise your notes if these allegations can be, I think, so let's say, proven prima facie. What would be your reflection?
Before he comes in?
No, it's not for you. It's for Mr. Takebe. What do you make of this, especially with the context that is provided by this statement by Peter Lanchene Toobu? Mr. Takebe.
I think in terms of how many officers are needed and so forth, that are recruited, that will be based on whatever needs assessment that the police service they do. So I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with the numbers. I have a problem with how people are recruited. And I think that is where we need to focus the analysis. And the issue here is in part about police ethics, because ethical policing starts with who you recruit, how you recruit, the transparency of the process, and so forth. So it will be quite difficult to say that a police service or a police leadership is ethical when recruitment processes are opaque. And that is something we need to try to address. And we are doing so in a context where, if you look at the last Afrobarometer survey, it showed that only 7% of Ghanaians said they had a lot of trust in the police. And so if we really want to address that kind of trust deficit, we have to start by building confidence in the way that we recruit people into the police service. And that is an issue that should be of key strategic concern for the police administration. And it would mean that they have to try to do whatever they can to fend off any attempt to interfere in their processes. And that is what I think should be their concern.
What do you think, though, the leadership of these institutions? You know that when elections are held in Ghana, you would find the security services generally, the police, the military at some point, and there have been some issues with that, especially on the back of the last election and some killings that happened. But the police, the military, you would have even the fire service, immigration, all of those people in there helping. What then would you say for all of the heads of these agencies, and especially the IGP, what would you want to see as the reaction of these institutions through their leaders on these concerns? What would you like to see or hear?
I think they have to try to respond. They have to answer the question as to how many people have been recruited throughout the period of concern. When were they recruited? How were they recruited? Those should be very simple, straightforward answers to provide. If it is indeed the case that all these people being recruited were first shortlisted or whatever that it might be, couple of years ago, and then they are being called back because opportunities have arisen. We need to know that. Is it indeed the case? And what is the argument for this? Is it the best available resource at the given time? Because at any time that you are recruiting, I suppose your question is, what kinds of officers do we need? And who are the best available people at that given time. So somebody who might be qualified, I don't know, in 2018, in 2024, you probably have a better qualified person to consider. So it just seems that as I said, if they are really interested in the questions of ethics, if they are interested in dealing with the low public trust, if they're interested in building confidence and so forth, then these are issues that they cannot just let slide. They have to try to respond in a way that is convincing, is persuasive, and so forth.
Prof, are you also suggesting then that if these leaders of these security installations or institutions do not respond, it could imply in the minds of the ordinary Ghanaian that there is something afoot? Is that what you're saying?
Well, first of all, we live in a democracy, and part of what we are entitled to is to ask civil questions and to expect a response. So in the first instance, there is an obligation to respond to questions that citizens ask of institutions or public officials. That's the first important thing. So there's an inherent obligation there. And secondly, yes, if we do not respond, then some people might assume that indeed the allegations are true, and that will have all kinds of implications, as has already been discussed.
Hold for me, Prof. Let me also bring in Peter now. Just to situate the conversation further, you have put this out, you have made some claims, and how are you going to back it up? What is going to be your next move, especially as the minority side in Parliament? What next can we expect?
Thank you very much. Before I go to what next, let me just quickly say something about the over 400 cadet officers at the police academy right now. It's not about the number. It's about the fact that there is a standard procedure involved in recruiting people to go to the police academy. When you get to the police academy and you are called a particular course, this is the 53rd course since the establishment of the college in 1959. And this is the largest number ever because population is increasing. We need more supervisors. There's no problem about that. But when you lock the door to a course, you can only be planning for course 54. You can't halfway along the line go and take people, put them together, some of them who are even juniors to those who are at the college, and go and mix them up and say, yes, in the next 2 months you are graduating and you're becoming a senior police officer, a supervisor at the first line. What it means that we are going to create a lot of incompetent supervisors, and it will gradually cascade. The effect will cascade to affect all of us. And I say,
so Peter, let me get this clearly. You're saying that this cohort has already started training, and that was my surprise as well. They've already started training. They are midway through. They've advanced and all of that. If we add on any people, it could affect the quality because they would have less time, and they're going to graduate at the same level as those who have been there, those who technically would be their seniors. And that the only thing that could be done is to add them to the next cohort, which would probably be next year, not this year. That's what you're saying.
Exactly. That's the point I was making. If you insist that you want to add on to this cause because it must be politically correct, you are politicizing cause 53. And I said it with all the experience that I've had in the 25 years. If you politicize the cause, they will suffer it in their police career till they retire. Let's not do it. Think about cause 54. There's no problem about that.
Final thoughts then on the way forward in just about a minute and a half.
Yes. The way forward, let the Inspector General of Police respect the Constitution. Let every politician appreciate the fact that the Ghana Police Service anchors the successes of our democracy. And let's give them free hand to do what is professional. When the police are wrong, let's tell them in the face, this is a no-no. When they are right, let's applaud them. I think that stick and carrot approach will have a better Ghana Police Service and, for that matter, a better democracy.
Thank you, Mr. Toobu. Let me take the final words from Professor Takebe as well. Prof?
Well, I think most of the time politicians do try to influence the police on duty. And it is the responsibility of police managers to always find ways to resist these efforts. And I think the police need to do more to show that they are not just handmaidens of politicians. And it starts by really having some control over recruitment processes, making them transparent, because it's only fair that that is done, that it's their obligation to do so as well, and that it would help in the kind of professional police service that they are seeking to have in order to ensure that the police are able to do the duties that are assigned them, not just policing of elections, but as I said previously, in the everyday investigations that they have to do, the quality of those investigations, and so forth. We need them to be able to do that. And they cannot do that if they lack public trust, if they are not professional, and so forth.
Thank you, Prof, for joining the conversation. You just heard Associate Professor of Criminology at the University of Cambridge, Justice Tankebe. He joined the conversation. We also had the Member of Parliament for Wild West, who is on the Defense Committee of Parliament, Superintendent of Police, Peter Lanchene Toobu, retired, of course, joining the conversation. How about you? What is your take on this? Well, it's a conversation that will continue as we interrogate the salient issues. But still to come, we're going to be talking about that tussle between the Social Security and National Insurance Trust and the Trades Union Congress. Now, the TUC is up in arms against SNIT for its decision to cede up to 60% of its hold on each of the 4 plush hotels to the Agric Minister, Brian Achampong, as they vow to unleash a protest like never seen before in the country if SNIT goes ahead with this deal. It's all about Rock City, only one end owned by Brian Achampong, the Agric Minister, and SNIT. There have been so many suggestions, purported claims made, but what is truth in there? We'll be seeking that when we return on the AM show. Stay.